Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Somewhere in the Middle with Michelle Berard. I'm your host, Michelle Berard, founder and CEO of Michelle A. Berard LLC. And I am super happy to be back from vacation and back with you guys. Now, you know I like to start by thanking Tribe Family Channel and Ms. Beverly Black for helping me create this space for us. We started this show on Tribe Family Channel, and although we have grown onto our own platform, we are ever grateful and loyal to our roots. To paraphrase an African proverb, we are here only because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Since we did take some time off, the June 21st show was a replay of an interview I had a while back with grant writing expert Dr. Beverly Browning. You can find our complete show archives, including that June 21st show, at the somewhereinthemiddlepodcast.com. Now, this month's guest has done really nearly everything there is to do in business and marketing, and he inspires others on their marketing and business journeys. Darrell Evans is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and co-founder of Yokel Local Internet Marketing. He and his team have helped entrepreneurs and companies generate over $300 million in revenue online since 2011. He's personally started and/or operated 6 businesses since the age of 20. He's also the host of the MindShift Podcast, which launched in 2019. And he's the founder of the MindShift Business Accelerator and the MindShift Growth Mastermind. Darrell is passionate about entrepreneurship. When he appears on podcasts, he loves sharing the lessons, mistakes, and breakthrough frameworks that have helped him and hundreds of other businesses market profitably, grow sales predictably, and build superstar teams. His goal is to help entrepreneurial-minded people grab at least one mind shift that could catapult them to their next level of success. So I would like to welcome Darrell Evans to Somewhere in the Middle with Michelle Berard. Darrell, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. Excited to be here today.
Well, I am excited because you have so much wonderful information to share with the audience, and we're going to get to that. But you know that I love to hear about people's journeys. So I have 2 questions for you, and if you're ready, I'll go ahead and ask those.
I'm ready.
All right. So Darrell Evans, who are you and how did you become who you are today?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that question. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Michelle. It's a very interesting question. You know, I like to first think of myself as an entrepreneur. I like to think of myself as a good father. I like to think of myself as a child of God who is constantly trying to make sure he doesn't fall too far away from his good grace. And I think at the end of the day, I like to think of myself as someone who would like to leave a positive impact on the people that he's connected with in all of these years of being blessed on this planet. So how I got here was I got curious about entrepreneurship in my teens while I was working a full-time job at a place in the United States everybody knows as Taco Bell. And I was taught as a young child in our household, we were taught to do the best we could whenever we showed up. We were taught you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And so through that behavioral process, found myself in leadership early in my teens and then into my early 20s. And tying that to my curiosity about entrepreneurship has led me to go on and take the entrepreneurial journey and plunge and the ups and downs of successful businesses that failed. And but 30 years later or so, I'm on my 6th business, current company, been around for 12 years. We've been helping companies grow their businesses. So not only have I found a way to grow businesses myself, but now have been able to come in and work and partner with companies and help them grow. So that's the short story of how I got here.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you got the entrepreneurial bug very young. So how did that manifest itself at a young age?
Curiosity. I used to go to the grocery store with my mom all the time. My grandmother and my mom both cooked, and I wasn't interested in cooking, but I always was interested in getting out of the house. Things were a little different when I grew up than they are today with all the technology. So getting out of the house and not just going to the schoolyard to play ball or hanging out with my friends. And I didn't really want to go to the grocery store, which is ironic today because I'm the cook in my house and I do all the grocery shopping. But I would always leave the basket and go over to the magazine rack. And my mind and my eyes always went to Forbes, Inc., Business Opportunity, Success. It always went to those magazines. And sure, all the rest of them were there. I did like comic books, but it went to that area. That was just where my interest was. So it was just a curiosity. And I grew up and noticed things, noticed differences in cars and differences in houses and differences in, the shoes that I was wearing versus the shoes someone else was wearing. So there was a little bit of that external awareness. And, it just, the more I read, the more I learned. And I actually went to college for electrical engineering and pivoted out of that. Not because that was a bad choice, but it just wasn't what I was wired to do. I chose it because they said it was a good career field. And I just honored my curiosity. And I think that's what eventually led to the journey.
So did you get your degree in doubly or would you?
No, actually, no, I started in engineering, and then I had mentioned that stint at Taco Bell. I ended up becoming a general manager at Taco Bell while I was in college at 20. And I started my first business at 20, which was out of the trunk of my car. And I realized that engineering was fine. I was interested, but I wasn't passionate. And so I was becoming more passionate about business and operations and employees and management and all of those things. And I ended up taking a pause from college for a few years. And then I came back as a finance major and finished in finance.
That's awesome. And the reason I think that's awesome is because I say often, I think college is actually wasted on 18-year-olds because you have no idea what you like and what you don't like at that age. And you're investing a lot of money, much more now than when I was in school.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. I have an 18-year-old getting ready to go to college. Believe me, it's a lot more than when I went.
Yeah. And so I think it's really good that you were able to kind of say, you know what, this isn't for me. Let me step back and do something else for a while. And then you figured out what you wanted. And then you went back for that. How did that go over with your parents?
My parents have never not supported anything I've ever done, even if they didn't understand it. They didn't choose electrical engineering. They just said, you should go to college. The world is tougher, especially for those of us that have some pigment in our skin. If you don't have the college degree, and they were not against the world by any means, but they were just saying, look, don't put yourself behind the 8 ball, get the degree. And so interestingly enough, what I do today is not associated to my degree, which is also the other misnomer about college. Like, you don't have to do the thing that the degree came from. And in all of my years of growing businesses and now hiring people now since my days at Taco Bell all the way through till now 30 years later, is I look at a college degree as a stage of execution that proves to me that someone can leave the guidance of their parents, the system called the regular educational system, and govern themselves over a 4-year journey with no barrier to failure, right? So the way I think about it is, like, we all know how bowling works, right? And we take young kids to go bowling and we go to the desk and we ask them to put up bumpers so that the ball doesn't go in the gutter, because we don't want the kid upset. We don't want them disappointed. We want the ball to make it down the lane, no matter how slow it goes. So those guardrails are there for that game. And what I think about college, and when I look at a college degree in my world, I don't care where the degree came from. I don't care what it was for. What it tells me is someone was able to make a decision to keep the commitment over 4 years. And those of us who have finished a college degree knows that it's a different level of commitment, care, maturity that gets you through to the finish line. So I'm interested in that part of it. It doesn't mean that you have to get a degree in order to be successful. You do not. But that's what it tells me. It's more so, did you keep the commitment to yourself for 4 years to do the work, to go through the battle, to do the ups and downs, to do the long hours of study, and to challenge yourself in ways that you didn't understand when you went there, and you had to figure it out along the way. And most people I know that finished college had some help and support by way of focus groups, support groups, studying groups. And I think there's something you learn about the next level of career that you can get through college.
I think that's interesting too, because it sounded like you had, I want to say, limited guidance when you went to school as well, because I was basically just told, okay, you got to go to college, and had no idea what I wanted to study. And also didn't really have a sense of how to use college effectively in terms of, the relationships, the right relationships to form, the best relationships to form, working with professors, getting that support and things like that. What kinds of things do you see that maybe people like us who've already been on that particular part of the journey could help other folks with as they're starting? Like, you've got an 18-year-old, I've got a 20-year-old, in terms of starting that part of their journey, or in my son's case, continuing that part of the journey, so that they can be successful in their career, or if they start a business.
Yeah, some of the things I've already sort of alluded to. What am I going to say to my daughter in 2 weeks as we take her down to San Diego and get her settled in? I'm going to explain to her some of the same things I explained to her about high school. Have fun, enjoy the experience, do all that you can, and enjoy this moment of your life, because, it's a good opportunity. On the flip side, I also say, make good decisions, stay away from, where none of us are perfect, make good decisions, guard your heart, meaning don't become so regimented around an organization. Look, I'm a member of a fraternity, but guard your heart around who you're going to associate with, because the reality of it is it's only one, you're only one decision away from throwing it all away, right? And when you get freedom from the governance of your parents or teachers who will check on you when you didn't show up to school, or being suspended when you didn't show up to class, or getting redos on your testing. I'm very hard about the way the school system does things today, at least in areas where I'm at. This whole redoing tests after you failed or after you didn't put in your best effort, I'm not for that conversation. So I'm constantly reminding her, you don't get a second chance. Some of the same advice I got growing up, right? You don't have a second chance to make a good first impression. I'm going to tell her to work hard. I'm going to tell her to study and prioritize. Those are the kinds of things, because college, I hate to say it, but once you give them the check or you borrow the money, whatever it is, they got it, and they'll invite you to leave. They won't make you stay.
Right. And they won't talk to your parents.
No, you're locked out. I'm locked out until, even the authorization I do have, it's limited. It's like, oh, they get access to the bill, but as far as the rest of that stuff, I'm out.
Yeah, I tell my son all the time, they're more than happy to take money from me, but they're not going to let me come.
They require
it. So I think that's wonderful, because, I feel much the same way about redoing this and redoing that, frankly. It's definitely a different world. Not that I think we should be letting our kids be set up for failure, but there is something to be said about learning from not succeeding all the time.
Yeah. I'm a believer in, and again, I'm not going to classify the entire process, but I can just say what I've observed. And of course, I'm in one city in the United States where I watched this transition, and it wasn't in my memory this way when I came up. And I think, again, I want to be careful with how I classify this, but I think as I've gotten older, what I've noticed is this do-over mentality, which means I don't have to put my best foot forward today because there's this opportunity to try again. And I might not get the biggest grade, but I'll still get some grade. And I've just never believed in that, because time is you're not able to recover time. And once you understand the value of time, you'll realize there's no reason for me to reinvest when I had the time to begin with in the first place. And again, this is just more of my mentality about success. I'm in business. Business you don't get too many do-overs. If one of my mentors says it takes thousands upon thousands of good ideas and good thoughts and good strategy and good execution to make a winning company, and it only takes one to kill it.
Yeah.
And so, although I didn't meet him until 7, 8 years ago, I've already known that because I've had businesses go under over a couple of bad decisions. It doesn't take much to throw it all away. And if we look at just life in general, you can make a decision to drink a little too much, get behind a wheel, throw it all away. You can hang out with the wrong person, get caught up with the wrong thing, throw your life away that way. There's all sorts of ways to do that. And so I've been a mindful person about that. And maybe, I have to give that to my parents. In other words, and my grandmother really specifically, she always used to say to me, you don't have that many friends. You may have a lot of associates, but you don't have that many friends. And she drilled that into us when we grew up. And so what that meant as I've gotten older is, there are very few friends that you're actually really going to have. And a real friend is someone you can call any time of the day or night. They'll be there for you. But more importantly, they also tell you when you're out of line, and they'll be the ones to call you back and say, hey, knock that mess off. And so as I've gotten older, I can't believe how true her words were. And it's been valuable, to my journey over time. So.
Well, and that goes straight into the business side of things, right? So you've started 6 businesses.
Yeah.
And some of them have done well. Some of them have not done as well. Most people become successful in business, have businesses that have failed, right?
True.
What do you do now? And how does it help other business people and other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, great question. What we do now is I am the co-founder and CEO. I'm now the sole owner. My business partner stepped away, and now I own 100% of the company. But we started the company with one objective, and that was to help small and middle-sized businesses make the digital transition to customer acquisition online. So we're a digital marketing agency, media advertiser, and we help companies acquire new leads and customers through platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, all of the things, email, websites, all that. And our goal and our mission has always been to help companies impact their communities, because at the end of the day, it looks like we're a marketing and advertising agency, but if I'm a big believer that small businesses make up the fabric of this country. That means we employ the vast majority of the people. I think statistics will vary between 59% to 64, 65%. So without small businesses, even though we love the big giant corporations, which were all once small, the Amazons of the world and so forth, I believe that entrepreneurship is the fabric. And so what we hope to do is by growing revenue and growing these small businesses, we are helping part of this 30 million small business population hire more people and get those dollars to flow back down into their communities. And I'm also very passionate about, I'm passionate about a bad number, and that is that the vast majority of small business owners fail. I want to be on the side of helping them succeed. And I know what failure looks like, but I didn't quit. And so that's part of what my mission is about today and what we do at the agency. And there's certainly more to growing a business in marketing and advertising. And so that's what I do in my coaching world as well. So we deal with some of the other areas of growing a business and succeeding in business over there.
So what are some of those other areas that you help entrepreneurs with?
The biggest one is people, right? You don't grow anything without people, without team. And it is one of the hardest aspects, in my opinion, about the business, about the aspect of business growth. You have to get people to believe what you believe in, what you believe in, to believe in the vision that you've set for the future, and to get them to align their strengths, what I call their superstar DNA, with your vision. See, everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. Everybody might try it. They might freelance. They might do some side hustling, things of that nature. But the vast majority of people don't want to lead from the front. They'd rather run on the coattails of their leader. The job, though, is for us as entrepreneurs to build the right framework that someone wants to actually run alongside of us or run with us on that journey. And they feel like they are executing in their gift along the journey with the destination that you've set for the process. And I think it's one of the hardest things to get right, getting the right people on. Years ago, I read this book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And, one of the theses in the book is you've got to get the right people on the bus the wrong people off the bus, and then the right people in the right seat. And getting the right people in the right seat is the hard one, because us humans, we some dicey people. We'll say we're with you for a minute, and then something will come along, so like $2 an hour more, whatever it may be, boom, they're gone. They don't believe that much no more. So the question is how do you build culture? How do you build environment? How do you set a vision for the future? How do you support them in their needs? Do you understand their needs? Can you actually get involved in them such that they stay involved and interested in you? And so that's a very interesting dynamic. The other one is systematization of business processes, systems, and tools. Right. We go to McDonald's, everyone knows a fast food restaurant in their area, whether it's Taco Bell, McDonald's, whatever it might be. And the interesting part about sometimes entrepreneurship is we're always trying to innovate something. We're always trying to find the next best way to do something. And unfortunately, that's not how successful businesses grow. They actually systematize everything such that it's almost so routine that it's monotonous. That's how you scale. I ask everybody this. I worked at Taco Bell all those years ago. If I go through a drive-through at Taco Bell today or go in the restaurant today, it's the same process it was when I worked there. Ain't changed. Same would go for McDonald's. Same would go for Cane's, Popeyes. I mean, I'm using fast food as the example.
Right.
And the lesson to learn there is stop trying to recreate the wheel, find out what works, put it on a process, put it into a system, and you'll be surprised, because the big challenge that I've learned over the years is when we start the business, and this is one of my pleas, is starting a business doesn't mean you're a business owner. Here's what I mean. Starting a business means you have entrepreneurial tendencies. It means you're an entrepreneur, but a business owner has an entity that can run without them, right? That's the distinction. And so what I'm noticing and what I've seen and what I wanted to get out of was I didn't want to be in the middle of the operation every day, all day. I didn't want to carry the attitude that if it's going to be, it's up to me. No. I want to find someone else who has that gift, because that's not my strength. So I'd rather hire someone who's good at HR, hire someone who's good at this or that. And I want to double and triple down on what I do best for the business. And I think that's the transition I'm trying to help small business owners make, especially a lot of people who are leaving corporate and starting entrepreneurial careers. I love working with entrepreneurs who have been in corporate-ish jobs, and it could be non-corporate. Like I think about a teacher who I'm working with or have worked with. And after 18, 19 years teaching, she's now started a business. I love that kind of transition. So it's that kind of, those frameworks are what entrepreneurs need and business owners need. And it's a distinction to say, how do I actually go away from my business and not have to worry about email and not have to check in and not have to take my computer with me and not have to take phone calls? I went through that life, and it was like, I don't really own this thing. It owns me. Right?
Well, when you start out, that's how it often is, right?
True. But it shouldn't be that 5, 6, 7 years in. Right. And so when I talk to entrepreneurs who've had a business for a while and they are still tied to it, I mean, listen, I work with some people where I'm in a meeting with them and they have to stop the meeting where I'm supposed to be helping them because the phone, the email, the notifications, they have no structure. And those are some of the simplest things to structure. And so how do you do that? And part of that is your mindset. It's not actually the things, it's your thought process about it. I made a decision years ago that I would never work a year without vacations. I don't care what the business looks like. I'm going on vacation and I'm unplugging, and you're not going to be able to reach me. And guess what? You're not going to break the company in a week.
Right.
And I started doing that multiple times. And before you know it, I now have multiple weeks off, even when my company is going through challenges. Even when the pandemic hit, I lost 57%. One of our business lost 57% of his business. I still took a vacation that August and didn't touch the company.
So,
That's a decision.
But you've been able to build up a team that you can
Yes.
rely on
Yes.
to keep things going and to work
Yes.
through any challenges.
Yes. But a lot of
Now-
entrepreneurs have to even make the decision to build a team. That's one of the other challenges. Yeah. So it's deciding, what do you want business to look like? that's exactly where it starts, right? So to build a team sounds easy. And going back to that earlier, right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, right butts, right seat. You've got to be an engineer as to what that looks like and get very intentional about beating on that process. Because as I mentioned, to me, people is the hardest part of it. Sales to me, not that hard. Marketing, not that hard. Getting accounting done, not that hard. All that, shipping and fulfillment, all there's routines for all that. Us people, we're that dynamic variable.
So if an entrepreneur right now is listening and they are thinking, I want to get to that point, I want to start building a team, what are, let's say, 3 things that you think they should be thinking about right now?
Yep. Easy. First exercise I almost always have my clients do that are in my coaching environment is to take maybe, I would say, at least a half a day off from the business and get away from the business. Turn off your phone, take off your email. You can take your computer with you, but you've got to silence the noise and get at least a half a day period of time. And what I want them doing in that half a day is to essentially write down everything that happens in the business task-wise from start to finish. Think about the moment someone inquires about your product or service, all the way through the delivery steps, and write them out on a piece of paper, step by step by step by step by step. You might end up with 53 things, you might end up with 112 things, but you need to do a brain dump. So we want to get everything out of your head that maybe is happening on routine or automated, but get it all out so we can see what it is. The next step is, what is it in those? I'm going to make it up for one of the first exercises I did. It had 68 items on it. Now, the next question is you, the entrepreneur, what of those 68 are required by you? Meaning, in order for the outcome to happen, you must do them. And so that's kind of step 2. Step 3 in that exercise is what makes you feel good when you do them. So the difference is that's how we find someone's superstar DNA. Of the 68 things, you might say 7 of them require you to do them. But then even there, which 3 of them actually do you feel, or which ones of those do you feel good when you do them? Meaning you feel great energy, you can do them with your eyes closed. That's really where your ultimate gift lies. Now from that, it doesn't mean you can offload the other 62, 65, but you've got to get clarity on what value you actually bring to the business. And a lot of times entrepreneurs, they think they're more valuable than they are. And the job of an entrepreneur is not to do all the things. So that's kind of one thing to do. The second thing, a major thing in terms of building a team, is decide what you want your ideal day to look like. Like, what do you want your day to look like? What gives you fulfillment? Decide what your day looks like. I always say, decide what your day looks like. Decide what your year looks like. Prioritize your life, then insert your business. It's an exercise. I say prioritize your life on your calendar and then insert your business around your life. If you look at my calendar, you'll see it's at 5:30 in the morning, which is a typical time I wake up generally. I've got my private time, my meditation time, my personal time, reading, stretching, etc. I then go to the gym. That's on the calendar as an appointment for me. And then I have my first meeting that'll start at 8 o'clock. I don't check anything before 8 o'clock. I have lunch on my calendar so nobody can interrupt my time to eat, because entrepreneurs, we like to just grind. Before you know it, you ain't healthy. Right? And then in the evening, I block out time for dinner. So on my calendar, it says what time I'm eating dinner with my family. Now, is it exactly the same time? Maybe, maybe not. The other thing is I use an automated system where people can't book meetings anytime they want. So I say design your life, then insert your business around it. You'd be surprised at how much you get done when you realize you've got barriers. You know, this whole working 18 hours a day, I'm not for it. I've never been for it. Like, you get better when you have constraints, right? Give yourself
establishing boundaries is what you're talking about.
That's right. If you give yourself some constraints, you will get more work done. The problem is a lot of entrepreneurs are tired out here hustling because they have no discipline, and they could get the discipline. They don't need me yelling in their ear about discipline. If they just gave themselves some constraints, right? Make a commitment to your family that you're going to eat dinner at 5 o'clock with them every night, right? make a commitment that you're not going to miss the cheerleading or the football or whatever. Make some commitments to your personal life, and then figure out how you can get the work done. Because a lot of times, if we work ourselves to death as entrepreneurs, sometimes I've been guilty. By the way, this is not me preaching that I never done it. I've done it. But it's you're going to have a season of unbalance in order to find that place of ultimate balance. But you've got to decide and get clear on what the destination looks like for your entrepreneurial journey. I have a story, and it's a bad story. Friend of mine who was he was a mentor of mine in college in my journey, and he was 37 or 38, and he had a heart attack. And I mean, stress, it just too much. And so don't chase what appears to be this ethereal, esoteric prize of being successful as an entrepreneur, and then destroy your life behind it, right? So that's just something I've believed in. And I spent my 7 or 8, 9 years doing the grind thing and being available for everybody at all times. And then of course I got some coaching and I got some guidance, and one of my coaches put me on, he put me on a 2-day program where I couldn't do nothing except think. It was one of the most impactful coaching experiences I've ever had. I still reference it to this day. I still have the materials from that day. I remember the tears from that day. He helped me get crystal clear on, I had to write what people would say to me at my funeral, or say about me at my funeral. I mean, he took me through some deep work. You leave that, and you see things slightly differently, especially if you do it with the right heart intent. It was very impactful work. And so I think that's one of the keys to get there, right? Decide how does your business run? What is your McDonald's system? What is your how you do it there system? What matters to you? Or meaning what do you feel like you're best at? And then what gives you joy when you're doing it? And that gives you at least a framework to start figuring out who needs to fill the gaps and fill the holes. Because those 3 things out of those 7 that you may do and feel good, passionate energy around, out of the other 68 things that have to happen in your business, there's somebody for each one of those.
Well, and maybe there's some technological solutions to some things. Maybe
100%.
Especially these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, technology is the best leveraging tool before you ever need to hire any human and take on the cost of insurance and all these other things. You're 100% right.
Awesome. Well, tell me Darrell, how can people connect with you to learn more and to get into one of your programs?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. If you've enjoyed listening to Michelle's podcast, Somewhere in the Middle, I have a podcast. It's called the MindShift Podcast, and we talk about a lot of these topics on my show with guests, as well as I do solo episodes. And so you can find it anywhere you're listening to Michelle's show right now, wherever you're listening to Somewhere in the Middle. You can just look up the MindShift Podcast with Darrell Evans. And if you'd like to check out a few episodes, I'd invite you to do that. And of course, to find out more about me, you can visit darrellevans.net. And those two pretty easy ways to get in contact with me and follow some of the work that we do.
Awesome. Darrell, thank you so much for being on Somewhere in the Middle with Michelle Berard.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you having me.
Well, that's our show this month, guys. You can reach out to me online at urbanbookeditor.com or michelleberard.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as Urban Book Editor. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send in some topics you'd like us to cover on the show. Also, make sure you tune into the show on August 16th when my guest will be mental health advocate Randy Lee Boslaw. You can find us once a month on Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern at the somewhereinthemiddlepodcast.com. Let's continue the conversation. You guys be good, stay mindful, and remain prayerful. Peace and blessings, y'all.